So September 6th of 2017, I was hanging out with two of my friends and one of them had a seizure. He's a sun person. I'm actively writing a book on it. I've got a little more than half done. And he didn't know why it was happening to him, but our other friend had the idea it might be a solar flare. And there was a massive solar flare. I think it happened then, and then it hit the Earth on the 8th or 9th or something. But he was having trouble, and I explained to him that a brain is an electric meatball, and we are walking batteries. And I playfully refer to the human body as a meat suit, based on the supernatural, the show Supernatural. The fandom likes to call bodies meat suits, but it's especially fun when you, are massage drunk or have an out-of-body experience. Just the experience of trying to operate your body. It's just kind of fun because you feel like graceful, but also totally clumsy. Anyway, so I said those things. And he copied my notebooks in his notebook, posted my text messages. He would get me to engage in these long text message chains where I would explain things to him, and then he would post it to his Facebook. And then he said he deactivated his Facebook, but he'd really just blocked me. So whatever. But he would never post any quotes or say, my friend said, or nothing. So anyway. And then, based on my research I've been doing since 2006, he called himself the equivalent of Yahweh, and probably still does. And that makes me very upset, because it's very disrespectful to both me and traditions. Anyway, doesn't need to be a rant video. So, electric meatballs, walking batteries. He likes to say, I told him the Earth is an iron generator, and he is really into philosophy and said it's like ion with the iron rings. So anyway, meat suits and walking batteries and things. And there was some other reason I was going to talk about that, and bioelectric generation, and I've explained to a couple people who know me, personally, that I'm doing things, and I explain that I generate a neutral field between me and anyone I'm reading. Because some people practice, bridging. That's just a term I'm using. Where they either hold hands or imagine tying a knot between your two hands. Like, no, best practices wise, I would not do that. You do not want to form a bond with someone in a professional setting. If you have a work friend or a classmate who you decide to be friends with, then cool. Attach away. But I do not do that with clients. So, I did want to explain my process. Maybe it'll help someone. I'm sorry, it's very casual. As always. Eventually I'll download Adobe and learn how to use it, but I don't. I just film myself talking. Anyway. So, I learned golden frequency. The principles, not the full thing. I'm not certified in anything. But just, I learned from part intuitively. It was instructed, but I was new to it. I learned from Barbara Buck, who's just an awesome person and professional in this field. But don't be offended if she doesn't necessarily have time for you because she's got way too many clients, because she's awesome. I don't trust easily. I do not trust easily. So anyway. So, I was already doing something similar based on the sun worship research that I do, and it's not what people think it is. It's really not, but whatever. Man, I wish I knew how to edit. Anyway, so I spin this sun model. It's like a solar logos model. I spin it. And a good metaphor, although it is specific to what people know, is if you're familiar with the end of the 5th Harry Potter movie, where Dumbledore, spins a ball of water. I do that, but it's like the sun. So I generally use candles, or I have a sunlight source, or I've drank at least 16 ounces of green juice, preferably 32. That kind of stuff. So I engage either sunlight or fire or some other solar logo symbol. And I use that as a generator, and then I create a vessel, almost like, you know how it's called throwing pottery, how you spin pottery on a wheel? So I form a bowl, and I view water. Sometimes it's an empty bowl, sometimes I use a flower, sometimes I use different containers. And this is like a classic intuitive method to create a container. And so I essentially place the question or the energy in its intention in that situation between us that I have generated. So I use my personal energy to spin up this natural energy. And then I hold that as a container, and then I work from that question. And if that doesn't work, and the other thing is with the spinning, I'm also creating like this helix. So whatever stratum I need to pull from, I can pull from. And most often it's the Akashic Records. So Akasha is the past lives. Past. Time isn't linear, it's all happening at the same time. It's alternate lives. And I've heard that this is a tenet from, I think, Hinduism, somewhere in Asia. I wish I knew the cultural context, but I was told, like, oh yeah, that's a thing. I see it when I'm out of my body, and I'm looking at myself. It's a step above what Rudolf Steiner called the College of Angels, which is a higher self meditation and metaphor. It's a step above that I see these beads on a string. So each bead is a sphere that can be the universe or the earth or an egg, but it's also a self. So the Akasha is where you are either understanding that you are not a self or you are understanding something about the self. It's this... Honestly, it's a lot like a superego. It's like this understanding, unifying, you know, this or that, yes and, where you can hold mutually exclusive concepts in unity, which is not a thing that you really know how to do when you're, you know, all the way in your body. But I see selves of my oversoul as beads on this string, and the time as threads, multiple threads through each bead. So I could be at any point within that bead that is me, if that makes sense. So time is only linear as a tool. And then you go a step above that, and it's almost like a grid. It's very hard to describe. I feel like I'm holding my camera weird. And it looks very much like Interstellar. At the end, where he's trying to talk through the bookshelf. It's kind of like that. It's like a Mobius plane or a geodesic sphere are like the 4 to 5D. And then I have this beads on a string thing. And there's different types of self within each of these brackets. And there's different strata in each bracket. It's very hard to describe. And what's weird is when I read different people, everybody's understanding of these layers is different. And I think it's very much like chakras, and I'm not all about the chakra dogma, just like the Americanization of yoga. I'm a little bit judgy about it. Because anything that is popular enough that we jump to conclusions about what a word means or what something is, we lose value. We lose the richness. We lose the depth. We lose the multiple meanings and the context. That's not to say that words should not evolve as they are used. They should. But we should also, when we have the time, be more conscious about the meaning of words we're using. But anyway. And that's honestly a lot easier when you're speaking a language you're not used to speaking. Like, you really understand the etymology of what you're saying. Anyway. Okay. So just like chakras, there are different strata that other people are aware of or not aware of, or have active but may not be aware of. And that's usually the situation where I'm most useful. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm seeing all these boats and water, and, I've had a few people, so I'm not calling out anyone individually, who are, either afraid of boats or maybe had motion sickness or, various things, or they have a water symbol that is really strong or something. And so I'll see these symbols and tell them that, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I really hate being on boats, or, whatever. And then I can, with their permission, or if it pertains to their question, look deeper and say, like, okay, what about this boat is significant? I feel nausea while standing on this boat. What does that tell me? And usually the imprint of that life will then start explaining what happened. So this video is getting long, so I'm going to cut it off. But that's most often how ghosts work. So people are like, I don't believe in ghosts. I think you move on. Yeah, but your energy stays. And it seems to stay long after you are mourned. So I would say that that's the mechanism that allows people to stay, but it stays after people have moved on. So anyway, I'm not really a medium. I am interpersonally and genetically related to mediums, which maybe I shouldn't say, but and I used to be able to do a lot of that as a kid, because kids are very impressionable and they really can experience multiple layers at once. I'm not really, I can do mediumship, but I'm not specialized in that. Just like if you're specialized in golf, you probably can do cricket, tennis, and baseball pretty well, but it's not your specialty. So it is something I would like to go back and develop later, but that's going to come with a goal that's coming up, so it doesn't matter. So I'm not trying to tell you how it works for everyone, but that is just my methodology. And then I also wanted to add, because I was definitely, I let a situation go way too far, way too long, on 2 different counts. So I just wanted to add this. Sociologically, it matters how old you are. If you are an elderly person, I'm not going to be sociologically disrespectful to you. But if you are an older person and you don't know not to do things, or you do know not to do them, but you think because you're old you get to violate people's personal space and ethics and, frankly, body, not okay. I don't care how old you are. Totally unacceptable. You've had decades more to know better. And if your methodologies are weak, that's on you. This is not a thing that has to do with your physical body. I mean, it does and it doesn't. I'm anchored here. But I'm not using my personal field to do these readings. Okay? I suffer from chronic health. That does not mean that I'm incapable of doing this. That means, actually, the more that I learn about other people and humanity and energy, the more I will be able to figure out my personal neurological map and fix it. And actually, that is a spinning off of another situation where I let something go way too far. And it was because I was being nice. Because if I have these gifts, I have to help people. Because they're gifts. They're skills. And everyone has them. And we all have a certain degree of responsibility to each other. But if someone is not only taking advantage, but actively violating you, it does not matter how old they are or what their relationship is to you. It's unacceptable. So what's super cool about this is, just like there's 3D and 5D in the New Age, I'm forgetting what I used to call, what New Age calls 5D, but whatever. But there's the astral in the middle. That's your mirror. What's super cool is, just like you have a body and you have a knowing of self/higher self, sociologically, it's like the astral. There's negotiation. There's tons of people who try to use you, use what they look like to take advantage of you. And I don't really even mean that in a lot of ways. Like someone who's older, or is scarier, or takes a position of authority, says I'm an ascended master, or even in reverse says I'm a demon. Or, presents themselves in certain ways. I earn 6 figures, take my master class. Yeah, I highly doubt it. I think, if anything, the 6 figures is like, not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but maybe tens of thousands of dollars, if that. And it's just a marketing scheme. It's because people took your master class. I've taken a few. All of them have been marketing schemes. 2 of them were useful. And that was a long time ago. That's a tangent. The way people present themselves in the astral and sociologically has a lot to do with the power dynamic that they want and the will that they are trying to enforce upon you. But your body comes first. Your sense of self over that comes first. I hope I'm making my point. So, if someone's older than me sociologically, I shouldn't be disrespectful to them. But if they're using clearly not good practices, they are purposely doing things that we both know to be ethically wrong. They're like, nah, you're letting me do it. Guess what, dude? Because you're not threatening me. First of all, I could physically... Doesn't matter. If you're doing that, you're weaker than me. So I'm really not in danger. So anyway, I'm a little bit angry. I'm still processing. I'm mostly angry at myself. But I just want to share that if someone is purposely messing with you, sociologically and astrally, it's the same thing. They might be trying to pull one over on you, appear as something they're not, whatever. But your baseline body is still going to be the same. Do not mess with me. And your sense of self, your dignity, your, higher self is always incorruptible. It's only corruptible to the point at which you let it be. So I'm having a problem. It's very much like metacognition. I'm upset that I'm upset. Because I knew what was happening. I let it happen. So why am I mad at myself after the fact? But anyway, guess what? I can tell a bad practitioner a mile away. I'm just interested in what you're doing wrong. Because it teaches me more about my blind spots. So thank you for the lesson. Also, thank you for physically doing things that are not okay. So, rant over. Thank you for hearing me. Hopefully I didn't push a lot of people away. But it's super not cool to touch people without consent and a bunch of other stuff that went wrong. Not cool. So, anyway.